Hey guys, welcome to another video. My god, this week has been heavy discussion video, followed by heavy discussion video, followed by heavy discussion, followed by heavy discussion. So how about today we just talk about some new stuff, and I fill you guys in all the juicy details that you've probably missed coming from ArenaNet over the week. So yes, yesterday we fixated a lot, pretty much did an entire video, talking about one small change to gold rewards in dungeons, but there was a lot of other stuff talked about too with the economy, and specifically, new legendary weapons. So first of all, the economy blog post kind of threw out a lot of vague statements, not just in the nerf to dungeon rewards, but in the other things that were changing too, like the salvaging changes and how certain materials were being viewed by the devs. For example, a lot of us have always wondered, why do charged lodestones have so many sinks while the other lodestones don't have many sinks? Basically, charged lodestones are worth a crap ton more money than any other lodestone, which has theoretically the exact same chance to drop and accessibility in the game, but charged lodestones, for whatever reason, have had tons of recipes go in that require them, while the others haven't. It's kind of an arbitrary way of the devs purposefully designing them to be more expensive. And so on the heels of this economy blog post, John Smith did do a bit of a Q&A on the forums discussing some various philosophies. Now, you'll find a link to the full thing if you want in the description, but I'll say the most notable stuff to me. Number one, people were wondering whether dungeon token rewards were also going to change with this nerf, and absolutely that is not true. Token rewards are going to stay the same, and I'm pretty happy to have heard that. There were some interesting comments, though. On the lodestone topic, he says, yeah, this is basically by design, that he actually likes the idea that you can have T6 materials, or T5 materials, or T4, and within that tier, there is still variation on the prices. It's not like all tier 6 lodestones cost 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold, 1 gold. He likes a bit of variation, but he can absolutely see the argument for there not being so much variation. I am in the camp that I'd like to see them worth roughly all the same amount. You know, it feels a lot less rewarding to do, say, TA, because if you get just as lucky and get a lodestone drop out of one of those chests, it doesn't mean as much as if you were in COE. And for what reason? Just because they arbitrarily wanted one of them to be more expensive than the other? Seems kind of interesting. I think one of the most controversial things I saw in this Q&A is a Wild vs. Wild player said, hey, look, Wild vs. Wilders don't get much money, alright? We try and dedicate ourselves wholly to this, we don't play anything else, and we don't get very fairly compensated for our time, and that's absolutely true. Another thing this guy didn't mention on the Q&A, but Wild vs. Wilders spend a lot of money to maintain their playstyles quite often. You know, when you're spending a crap ton on Guild Siege and stuff, it adds up. When the expansion comes out and we've got stuff in the war chest and the build queue and scribing, that's still a lot of money. So he was explicitly asked, what do you think? Do you think you can buff the rewards for pure Wild vs. Wild players? And he basically just said, no, this isn't going to happen. I think it's in an okay place. Which is funny for me to hear as an outsider, but I think could be pretty sad for a raw Wild vs. Wilder. But the truth is, ArenaNet for a long time have wanted people to mix throughout all their different areas of content. They wanted you to duck into PvE for a bit, into Wild vs. Wild for a bit, into PvP for a bit, because they know that the players who try a bit of all of those and find enjoyment in all of those, give them enough of a shot to find enjoyment in those different formats, probably will end up playing the game longer. I know that I'm one of those players. Anytime I've ever got bored of Guild Wars 2, people frequently ask me, Wooden Potatoes, how are you still playing this game? It's usually because if I get bored of PvE, I just end up PvPing a load, and there have been times, yes, where I've ended up going to Wild vs. Wild, not large Zerg scale stuff, but a lot of small man roaming and flipping camps and stuff, and, you know, then that will occupy me for ages, and then I'll go back to one of the other game types. So I do think that's a healthy thing for them to encourage, but he was very blunt here, saying, you know, I don't feel like they need a change. That all said, he did say they're being watched for after launch, and maybe a change will be on the horizon at some point. So, I do want to spend a reasonable amount of time today talking about Halloween, which is coming up. There were reveals. We've known for a while, obviously, that Halloween was matching with the Heart of Thorns release date, but the official release page did come out today. But before we jump into that, let's have a quick look at the new Legendaries. So, there were two posts that went up yesterday. One was the economy with the dungeon stuff and the stuff we've just expressed in this video. The other was the new Legendaries. So, it's kind of funny how this seems to have been pushed back and back and back. But the new Legendaries, okay, we originally heard that there were going to be a full set of new Legendaries in Heart of Thorns. Then very quickly we heard that they weren't all releasing at the beginning of Heart of Thorns. And it's become very obvious why that is true now. The amount of detail and work and concepting and implementation that has gone into the precursor crafting system and the legendary crafting system for the new generation of legendaries is enormous. And there was a wonderful blog post that expressed this in fairly specific terms while also introducing us to 3 of the new weapons. So here's what's happening. Heart of Thorns is releasing with precursor crafting for the existing legendaries. Then, when raids come out, just a couple of weeks after, when the raids come out, people have their masteries, they've generally explored the maps, they've had a chance to get some of these map-based currencies, then the new legendaries, the first of the new legendaries come in, and that's going to be 3 specific weapons. That is the axe, which looks like this kind of crazy celestial type weapon that turns your entire arm blue, as you can see in the screenshot here. This kind of celestial style effect, we've actually seen reused a fair amount of times now. It looks fairly similar to the old Zodiac set that came, the armor that came in through the gem store a while back, but this is of course what we see Evan Nashblade has lined his Black Lion vaults with outside, and it's come up in a few different places. This here is the most recent of them. So we've got the axe, we have the staff, which is indeed the Raven staff, which was mined way long ago, like ages ago, when we just heard of it, like a random legendary got mined. It was the stuff. It is this, and it may look kind of unassuming, you know, just kind of like a bit of a branch that we're holding, but I do think that the extra effects on this thing are really going to be what makes it shine. In fact, there was a dev post on Reddit specifically attesting to this. It's basically the idea that you've got a staff with a raven perched on it, and when you equip the staff, that raven's probably going to fly off, maybe explode into loads of tiny little ravens that are flying around with you. I love the idea that just because you have this staff equipped, you actually kind of have almost like a pet, a raven flying around and orbiting you in different areas and kind of moving fairly realistically. I really like that idea, but yeah, I haven't actually seen these things animated just yet. The staff also turns one of your arms all black and feathery. So this staff does look very interesting. And then last of all, we have a pistol. And the pistol's looking pretty nice, but I think the main thing going for it is it's got a fancy design and it's big. It's a huge pistol. A massive problem with pistols in Guild Wars 2 is they tend to feel kind of small. Maybe I just experienced this a little more because most of my pistol-wielding professions are Asura for me. And then that becomes even more of a compounded problem. I have a friend who just recently got his first pinnacle weapon. These are the weapons that you get only at like 29,000 achievement points. There are less than 10 people in the entire game with these weapons at this point. And of course, there's a full set of 19 different weapons you could choose from. So the people at the very top of the achievement boards right now are selecting their very first pinnacle weapons. And this guy I'm talking about picked the pistol specifically, much to many people's disappointment, because they're like, oh, you can't even see it very well, as they tend to be quite small in this legend. You know, will hopefully satisfy that larger weapon quality that a lot of pistols end up missing. Since we managed to talk ourselves onto pinnacle weapons, I just looked it up. There's as far as I can see from the leaderboards, it takes 29,000 achievement points to get one of these weapons, and only 4 people across EU and NA actually have 29,000 achievement points. So we're talking about legendaries here, but if you really want to think about currently, before Heart of Thorns, when there's a ton more achievement points available and so on, right now, these are the rarest things in the game. There are 19 to choose from. You know, if you pick something weird, then you are the only player in the game with that weapon for completing on the high-end achievement leaderboards. That's pretty amazing. So, the new legendaries are very exciting. I think it's fine, as I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks back, that they get revealed early when, you know, some people were sort of leaking these things. Because, you know, like, we've got the wardrobe in-game for a start. So, when Heart of Thorns comes up, people will just look at them in the wardrobe, let alone all these other things. It's not going to be that same experience that we may have had briefly at launch, where it's like the first one to come out of this Mystic Forge is truly exciting and mysterious and no one knew what it looked like. They would have come out and been seen anyway. So, I'm happy that ArenaNet put them in the blog. They've been fairly intelligent as well about the specific legendaries they chose. It is no coincidence, guys, I assure you, that this is the axe, the staff, and the pistol. Why? Because those 3 weapons alone, including the elite specializations, which will now be available, have a spread and coverage across every single class in the game. How can you easily tell this? Well, after the elite specializations come out, every single class gets staff, so the staff already covers everyone, except engineer, who gets pistol, and warrior, who gets axe. So, just basically through that, you can see they've done that quite smartly, so there isn't anyone out there who's saying, oh, I didn't even get a legendary for my class, and importantly so. There is a lot more I could say about legendaries. They went into a lot of detail about how you craft them. Now, anyone who already plays the games knows that the process of crafting a legendary is fairly convoluted and fairly long. And with the Gen 2 legendaries, we've got like this whole precursor situation that we're going through. You know, all these collections. And then we've got the actual process of making the Legendary 2, which is significantly different. So, while the core legendaries, which are all trading postable and stuff like that, they all encourage much exploration around the regular Tyrian areas. The Heart of Thorns legendaries guess what? It can encourage you to explore a lot of the Maguma jungle. So, for example, the Gift of Mastery, you know, that has the Gift of Exploration as a component, getting world completion. Well, now the equivalent is the Gift of Maguma jungle exploration, basically. And they're going to require in huge amounts the new currencies and materials and stuff that are exclusively found in the Maguma jungle areas. That's a great system because then when new legendaries come out in new regions with the new expansions, they can basically do the same thing again. If you do want specifics on it, again, there'll be a link down below, but it would just be too much for me to describe in this video. Moving on, let's have a look at Halloween. Halloween has got some really exciting stuff. Now, I kind of feel for the devs here because they are in the middle of releasing an expansion. It is launching at the same time as Halloween. Some of you guys might even wonder, why would they bother with the festival? We've got an expansion to play, obviously, right? Who's even going to bother with Halloween? Well, it's pretty smart the way they've done this because we do also just now have a bunch of new free-to-play people coming into the game who aren't sure whether they're actually going to buy Heart of Thorns or not. And when the good new hotness comes out with Heart of Thorns, they could have, like, not had anything else going on, and so all those kind of questioning players would have been even more tempted to buy the expansion because all of their friends would have left them. But it turns out they will have something to do. Even they're going to get something free. Even they're going to get something nice and new to play. That's going to be Halloween. This should keep us tided over as well when, for example, the new Heart of Thorns maps are buggy and breaking and unplayable, and there's lag issues and all manner of other problems. At least there'll be Halloween that we can all go back to and enjoy in the meantime. This is actually going to do a lot to diffuse the stress that can come about from these inevitable game-breaking, halting bugs. You know, like your personal story's bugged and you can't play any further, but you don't want to hang around in the jungle anyway, so head on to Halloween until things get fixed. So it's pretty cool, and they put effort into it, you know. They could have easily recycled, just like last year. Last year, we had a completely recycled Halloween that really wasn't very inspired at all, just had a couple of new rewards jumped in there, but the content itself was pretty much the same. This year, we have a new Lion's Arch that they have to drop the decorations into, and somebody had to go to the effort of that, so there's a screenshot you guys should be able to see on screen right now of New LA, which looks fairly cool, and what they've also done is given us that very first 2012 Halloween dungeon back. So, a bit of a history lesson for those of you who are really new into the franchise. The first Halloween released shortly after Guild Wars 2's original launch, and it brought with it it came in like 4 phases. You kind of had like a week of a certain amount of stuff, and then later some more stuff came in, like the trick-or-treat doors came in, then a little later some more stuff came in, and then it ended with Mad King Thorn breaking down one of the statues in Lion's Arch and opening a portal to his realm. And it was like a 5-man mini dungeon you could play with a little bit of jumping puzzle style stuff, some jokes with the Mad King, and you could kill him. And after killing him, you could run it in a very short space of time. It would drop a chest. That chest could drop really rare Black Lion skins that were worth hundreds of gold. The hardest I think I've grinded in Guild Wars 2 was on that original Halloween weekend. I spent every second for basically a weekend straight. Yeah, that's right, not sleeping, with a friend of mine, grinding it over and over and over and over and over again, desperately hoping to get some of these weapons like the Arachnia short bow. I look back on that, was crazy what I did at the time, and I won't do anything like that this year. Definitely I don't have the time anymore. But I look back on that, and I think of it fondly. So it's always been a shame, you know, when 2013 rolled around, they didn't bring that dungeon back. They added new stuff, though, so it was forgivable. But then in 2014, when it was just pure recycling content, they didn't bring it back either. This year, they are. This year, that original dungeon will come back, and I am really looking forward to playing it. I'm also looking forward to where he's going to arrive in Lion's Arch now, because that old statue he busted through in the original year isn't there, because Lion's Arch is totally different. There was actually a post as well about the fact that there's been a lot of power creep in the game now, and the boss wasn't really very hard to kill in the first place. And now there's been so much power creep, people are so much better at the game, he's probably just going to melt, right? Apparently there has been a bit of a balance pass done to make sure the encounters are a little bit more fun, but don't expect anything crazy, says Colin. It's just been tuned up just a little, you know, to make sure that he doesn't melt, presumably. So there could be some slight changes there. Aside from that dungeon coming back, well, what else is there? You can see on this screenshot a whole ton of new skins, rewards, back items, bat wings that someone's got, butterfly back piece, a mummy back piece, new minis. They describe being able to build like a new bat's wing shoulder or something. There are going to be new rewards. A lot of it's dropped into trick-or-treat bags, and there seems to be some super special surprise in there too. I'm a little salty about this. Anybody who's been watching my stream, you know that this week I pushed myself through thousands and thousands and thousands of trick-or-treat bags to push myself to 300 magic find. I've got nobody but myself to blame. I knew that Halloween was coming up, And I decided to go for the trick-or-treat bags anyway, because I knew that when Heart of Thorns came out, I wanted the max magic find as it was. So, yeah, I don't have anyone else to blame, but I'm sad. I'm like, damn, I just opened all these trick-or-treat bags, and now there's even more cool items that could be coming out of them. But I didn't get lucky at all on those bags in the first place. I didn't get any refractors despite opening, you know, in the order of tens of thousands of them. So, screw it. I'm just going to pretend that the RNG wouldn't have favored me anyway, and I'll buy the stuff off of the TP if I can. Rewinding a little bit further back, there have been some posts about elite specialization balance, more tuning safe for Dragon Hunter. I don't want to go into too much of this, but specifically, I did want to look at the Druid and the Engineer, the Scrapper, because these two guys only had one beta weekend event. And then if you were to, you know, chunk together all of the beta feedback that the devs and iteration the devs did on the other elite specializations, you'd hope they'd put a little bit more focus on these two, right? Because they didn't have much time. They only had one beta. Did they get that wonderful feedback that many of our other classes did? No, not really. Here's what we've heard, right? As far as I'm aware, this is pretty much all we've heard. Some slight changes to the hammer for the Scrapper. The fact that gyros should be a little bit better at keeping close to you. This was a big problem, actually. In the original stream where they showed off the stealth gyro, it pulsed, and as I played this, I felt this problem too. As it runs around, it's supposed to stealth you every now and then, but you can walk out of its range, and then you miss the stealth pulse, and then it doesn't even, like, perma-stealth you. So they are supposed to be better at staying near you. Yay. Have a bit more survivability. And that's it. Like, we really didn't hear much more else. Druid is in an even more interesting situation because it sounds like there have been a lot of changes to Druid. We've heard that there have been changes to glyphs, to the celestial form, to the staff. Many changes. But they're being cagey about telling us what those changes are. And we know, of course, that there were going to be scaling changes, right? But, you know, numbers on those haven't been elaborated to us, I suppose. So those classes, for now, it's like, okay, it's potluck what you're going to look like when you get out at launch. Bit of a shame, that. Lastly, I'll wrap the video up with something fairly old now, but, you know, if I don't say it now, then it will never be relevant to talk about. They did do a post talking about PvP reward tracks. There's nothing super major here, but another bit of a disappointing thing in the world of currencies. So, first of all, the good stuff. There are going to be a lot more new reward tracks. They won't necessarily be repeatable tracks. And by that, I mean, you know, like, we've got the dungeon tracks right now. You can do it, and you can do it again, you do it again, you do it again. And the regional ones, you can continue redoing it. There was, like, a one-shot track in the game. For example, the Balthazar track. You only do it the once, you get the Balthazar back piece at the end, and there you go, it's done. Well, they're going to add a lot more one-shot tracks. And what these are aimed at is giving more kind of fun tracks to do for those new players. So when you first get into PvP, you are a rabbit, right, when you start? And there will be a rabbit reward track. You can do that reward track, get a special reward at the end, and then that's done. It's a one-shot track. You're finished with it. Then, once that's done, you wait for a while, and eventually you become like a wolf, right? You become a Doliac. You'll slowly rank up all the way up to Phoenix and then Dragon. Every time you hit a new animal, you get another one-shot track that you can do. And these one-shot tracks sound like, because there'll be quite a lot of them, that they'll actually offer Black Lion keys and stuff. For those of us who are already dragons, you don't just get to skip to Dragon, you do Rabbit first, and you wind your way up too. So, I actually like the sound of that system. It gives people more option with the reward tracks, rather than just being like, oh, I don't really know what I should be going for, I don't care, I'll just pick something random and arbitrary forever as I'm PvPing. On top of that, there's going to be even more new reward tracks for unlocking Mist Champions. And then once you're done with those, you can get another one that allows you to get a mini of the Mist Champion. We do know Mist Champions also have skins now, but it seems like you don't get the skins from the reward tracks. They're probably going to be sold in the gem store, which makes sense. The big change to these all tracks, though, is because of the new legendary crafting, they're adding these things called Shards of Glory. These are basically going to roll into what has become the new Gift of Battle, which is far more engaging to get than, you know, just a few World versus World badges of honor. And they're actually going to be replacing 2 of the transmutation charge slots. I have always never had a problem with transmutation charges. I reskin stuff fairly frequently. You might not see it on the videos because I'm often on my Elementalist, but I do reskin stuff fairly frequently, and I've always been on like plus 100, but this might just be because I do my PvP daily every day, and other people might not. So if you've already been struggling for transmutation charges and relied on PvP to keep your head above the water, you might now find yourself a little out of your depth. You might want to run a few cities, but in the end, they're only transmutation charges. You can farm transmutation charges like 1 every 5 minutes or less, I think, if you do the Grove run. So yeah, it shouldn't be a huge deal. Anyway, there you go, guys. That's what we've got coming up. It's like 10 days till Heart of Thorns now. Christ, that is not very long away at all. And Halloween's coming with it, and hopefully ArenaNet really stick to an early deadline for their raids coming out after that, the new legendary weapons coming out after that, and we just hit update after update after update, and we kind of live in this dream scenario where Guild Wars 2 just keeps getting that consistent content coming back now, piled onto us. Looking forward to it. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and I hope to see you tomorrow for more videos. Catch you next time, guys.